this image brought back memories from my days as a backpacker some 20 years ago in Australia, when I went to the Northern Territories and saw the crocodiles jumping out of the water. So that was a great memory, and that's what photography does. It brings back memories, and I often go through my photo albums of yesteryears, and it brings back memories like instantly back to the forefront of your memory. So that was a great image. Brought back great memories, beautiful close-up. I would have loved to see this in the portrait size though, because it's a very vertical subject, and it's sort of cut off at the bottom and the top. So next time try a portrait crop of the subject.
There's that little bit of meat just dingling off the edge of the frame there. It'd be nice to see a bit more, wouldn't it?
Yeah, beautiful architectural shot, one of the lobbies in one of the buildings, maybe here in Sydney. Great point of view, because you're looking down and you can see the beautiful circle that you're looking down towards the ground. A great little accent of the person walking into the frame in the right spot. Great highlights on the slats, if you can call them. So a great angle, and love this shot. Very creative take on how you present photography. It is sort of a kimono sort of style. I would love to know if there's any symbolism in flipping the two images at the top left and top right, because they are the same images. So maybe there's some sort of symbolism in the kimono style. But I thought it was a very interesting way of presenting a series of images. You have the triptychs that a lot of people enjoy. They're very tricky, but they can be very effective. And this is just another creative way of putting your story, your series of images in a certain layout, and I think it works really well.
Did you want that discussion now with the photographer?
Whatever is, yeah, I'm happy to chat now.
Suzanne?
Tim? So Dex, essentially I flipped the images purely from a symmetry perspective. I was actually struggling to see at the time. And so I had to sort of keep my creativity to a minimum, because I really couldn't see very well. So that was the only reason behind it, that it was purely symmetry.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What's the little text at the top? Is that the name of the guy, is it?
No, so that was actually a sign from an image.
Yep.
And I decided to use that as the top of the kimono.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought it might be a good idea to try to, because you have 5 shapes and there's 5 images. What would happen if, for example, one image was filling 3 shapes? So they would sort of interact a little bit more, or because they're
through the center.
Sorry?
You mean through the center of the image?
Yeah, for example, if you take the top right and you put the whole image in the 3 blocks, like the middle, the top one, and the middle one, and the one on the right hand side, and sort of make them blend into each other, that would maybe make for an interesting crop or layout.
Okay, thank you.
I prepared something as well to make my point, because I'm not sure if I'm 100% clear, but I'll have to share my screen. Now we can do that later. We can do that later, maybe at the end, where I can sort of show a few things.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this. This is, if you remember my presentation, it's all about decisive moments. And this is one of those 1 in a million photographs. And you don't wake up in the morning and think, this is what I'm going to shoot. The angle is amazing. And that moment where the bird is trying to pick up whatever it is in the air, and the low angle, the depth of field, it's just an awesome image, and I loved it. I was completely drawn to it. I've never seen anything like this before. It's not an everyday scene, so you would have to be in the water almost to make this shot, and I'm sure it was like a lucky shot, and it wasn't shot by a person that thought, this is what I'm going to shoot, because it's sort of 1 in a million.
One of the benefits of being the judge Dex is that we offer discounts if you want to buy any of the images.
Okay. I already took a screenshot. It's now my screensaver.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, it's not. Yeah, very creative image. I wasn't sure what it was. But again, photography is all about capturing light, and with this sort of really like abstract look, I wonder what it would look like if this was a square crop rather than a landscape crop. I often find as soon as you put something in a square crop, it elevates it to that elusive fine art sort of thing. It's very hard to explain, but I find this square crop is so much more, gives so much more different feeling to an image than just a landscape or a portrait. It takes it to the next level of interestingness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's more tailored.
I would make this a square crop. And for some reason, for me, it elevates it to a different genre rather than a portrait or a landscape photo. But yeah, very interesting and intriguing. The new Barangaroo Tower, like how the flags are sort of imitating the shape of the building, and a great angle, and probably shot with a zoom. So yeah, can't wait to get outside again and see this building because it's so beautiful.
Yeah. And just on dusk, it's the reflections are great.
Yeah. So this close-up of this flower. I'm not really into flowers, but I really like the composition of this shot, and there's a beautiful contrast between all the white flowers and how delicate they are against the dark background. And I think here a square crop works really, really well. Beautiful reflections, very original photo. I think I know this is in front of the MCA here in Sydney, the museum. And because of the material and the little holes in it, it creates this really beautiful reflection and sort of strange pattern because of all the circles and the holes. Yeah, very beautiful image. From memory, this was, the title was something fog. And I'm not really sure if, because fog is always really smooth. And I think there has been some in-camera movement happening here as well. I'm not sure if that is correct, but it really suits the sort of the fog theme, and it's beautifully composed. I like how on the right-hand side, there's just a little bit of stuff that you can see to anchor the photo. So there's a horizon, there's a sort of horizontal line, and very poetic, very, I could see this as like an album of like abstract music, like Eric Satie or something in that sort of style. So yeah, beautiful image, but I'm not sure whether the in-camera movement actually fits the fog, as fog makes everything really smooth. But then again, in the fog, you can see masts move as well. So interesting. I would be interested to know how this image was made, but beautiful image. I lived around this fountain in King's Cross, and then I thought, like, well, the building behind it, that's not King's Cross here in Sydney. So I've seen this fountain like a million times, but the setting is just very different. I like how it's centered in the composition, and the water. There's just a little bit of movement in the water because of the length of the shutter. So yeah, beautiful image. I know this place very well. I've always tried to come up with this photo, and somebody else did it. Damn, it's got everything that I want from that location. It's got the sun, because photography is all about capturing beautiful light. It's got the opera house. It's got the harbour bridge. It's got a cruise liner as well, sailboats, beautiful clouds, water, and the pier, and the little silhouettes on the pier. So beautiful capture. I couldn't fault it, and I was very jealous because I've been to that location so many times, but I've never captured it like this. So yeah, beautiful, beautiful image. I think it really works with the rule of thirds as well, like the 3 silhouettes in the perfect spot, and there's something happening every corner of the image. So yeah, loved it. Beautiful reflections here. I would love to see a bit more of the reflections, because there's a lot of empty space. I would have loved to see more of the building in the glass. So I think a different angle would have been would have had a better result. So I would have gone lower here and point the camera up, and you would have seen the person, and you would still have all the lines, but you would have more building in the reflections. So obviously it's always a split second because the person is there and you want to take the photo, but a different angle would have been more successful, I think. This is a great capture of the on the ferry. Beautiful for a photo, family photo album. Love the crop as well because of the windows and the horizontal sort of landscape crop, and you can see a little bit of the buildings reflected in the ferry as well. So yeah, beautiful capture. A sunny day out on the harbour. I almost had to cry. This is a very sad looking dog, but I love how black and white this is, and especially how the door anchors the dog on the bed or whatever it is, the sofa. So yeah, there's a few elements that I'm not sure about. Maybe it should have been a square crop, but yeah, the dog looks at you, and it's taken at the perfect time.
It's looking pretty guilty, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it tore up something as well. Maybe it was.
That's right.
Or, yeah. This is one of those, I call it cliche images because there's so many of these, but this one is very well done. I really like the tonal range because there's every gray possible in the universe. You can see that in this image, and I would have found it very difficult to capture. So technically, I think it's beautifully done. And it reminds me of one of the photographers I mentioned during my presentation, Anton Corbijn. He did a similar image for one of the covers of a band called Depeche Mode. And I would have loved this one better than that one because this one is beautifully in mono. So yeah, I love all the lines. Every corner of this image is interesting because there's no dead space, or I don't want to crop it. I did crop it to a square, and I was like, no, all these lines moving towards the outside of the image are really beautiful. So yeah, wonderful image. Our harbour bridge, I can't wait to see the bridge again. It's been 2 months now. So I was wondering with this one, was it shot through a window? Is there water on the window, or is there some in-camera movement as well happening here? But yeah, beautiful rendition of a bleak, I think very rainy Sydney afternoon. So a great look and feel.
Did you want the feedback on the water? It looks like there's water on the window, doesn't it? Mike, is that a mic shot?
No, that's mine. It's just water taken on through glass when we're in the middle of a big storm and the rain was pouring down the glass and creating those distortions in the bridge.
Yeah, it wasn't in-camera movement. It was just the water and the wind that made the lines all blurry.
No in-camera movement. It's taken at 160th of a second for that matter.
Yeah, very original take on the coat hanger. Great image.
Thank you.
Very unique image. I was struggling with this because I like it so much, but that pattern or the filter is just a little bit too much in my face. I can't see past the grain and the filter, and I think it's just a little bit over the top, and I really would have loved this image to death, but that filter is just a little bit too much for me. Subject is fantastic. The silhouettes are fantastic, beautifully positioned against the sails of the Opera House. I just can't go past the specific filter that was used. Maybe the maker wants to comment on that.
Yeah, no filter. It was from Bradley's head with an iPhone.
Okay, so it's just a quality thing.
It's just noise. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you do there, Dex? Would you darken it up so you didn't see the texture in the foreground, or?
Well, I prepared this one as in a square, and maybe I can show that later
At the end, okay.
I just can't pass the it's not sharp. It's the wrong filter, the wrong grain for me. And that's such a shame because I love the image, I love the subject, I love the silhouettes against the sails. It's one of those images that I would have loved to have taken because I want that sort of image that is unique, and that's my challenge in my photography, to come up with an interesting, new and creative way to shoot the Opera House, and this is exactly that. But that grain is,
just too much. Yep.
Vera just needs an
but somebody else might like it. Again, it's all very subjective, but I was like, what is that? That's unsharpness, or why was that filter chosen, or that noise is just a little bit too much.
I think it's just a quality issue when the iPhone shot's blown up.
Yeah, Vera needs an iPhone 14.
Well, she could also use her Sony.
Oh, that doesn't get used.
Ouch.
Next time.
This is a very everyday sort of bleak moment, but beautifully captured. There's nothing interesting about this photo, but that's because that's why it's so interesting. It's just around the corner from where you live. There's nothing special about that location, but how it's been shot. And because of, I think it's rain, it has a beautiful look and feel, great contrast. The only things I would do, again, I would sort of crop this to a square, because there's a bit on the right and the left hand side that doesn't really add all that much in my opinion, but it's so beautifully shot, and it's such an ordinary place, but you can shoot ordinary places in a way that is beautiful, and that's been achieved here.
Also got that little COVID content too, where all the chairs have been stacked up so you can't sit on them.
Yeah.
I question, is it rain? Because you've got a lady walking with her hair exposed, no umbrella, not running.
Could be a rain shower. She's got the sunlight on her face.
Yeah,
I can tell you.
It's not rain, but it sort of adds to the mystery of the.
Yeah.
Here's your chance, Grant. Throw your two
Yeah,
bits in.
no, it's yeah, so it's right on the corner in Newtown there, of Enmore Road. But it's just late afternoon. It's in a sun shower, and it's actually a guy standing there.
Ah. Oh, if you said Newtown, I would have guessed.
Well, it is
Yeah.
Newtown. You know.
I like the idea of it. I like the idea of the crop though. That's good.
I like his hair though.
I've just been playing with it. It would look great.
He's got a man bun, Mike.
Yeah, and a scarf.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Very Newtown.
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, very like ordinary scene, captured beautifully. That's the power of photography, and you have to have the eye to see this, because it's just, you walk past it and it's there, and yeah, it was captured here beautifully.
The pros and cons of the 16:9 makes it look a bit more cinematic, and the square crop sort of changes that. So it's got a nice cinematic feel about it. So it's whether the crop took that cinematic feel away. So anyway, great shot.
Another creative image. I love when people love their photography and use that photography to create something else. I do it myself as well, so I applaud that. And the sky is the limit. It's not just what you see, but it's what you want to see in your image. And I looked at all the different elements and it made me laugh, and that's pure joy. That's photography for you. It's not just taking the photo, but you can do so much with it. So I love the creativity. I love the fun. Yeah, beautiful image. And it shows the spectrum of the camera club as well. There's so many different images. There were only like 38, but they were all so different. So yeah, it was
which is great. I think the mix and appreciation of all the different ways of doing things really helps in the mix.
And this one was beautifully cropped, very cleverly cropped with the sign. And the lines here as well, because there's a beautiful diagonal line that that sort of guides your eye to the top, the bottom left into the image. So great depth of field, yeah, beautifully framed. That's what I instantly thought when I saw this image. Great composition. I gather this is a reflection, because you can sort of see inside, but you can see what is reflected in glass or plastic.
Yeah, I think the title was "Watch Out."
Watch out! Yeah, it's like that person is walking into.
They're going to walk into the glass.
Yeah, into the glass. So yeah, and that sort of reflection and that material gives it an awesome look and feel. I'm very intrigued by this image, and it proves the point that reflections can create some awesome imagery. Again, you can't wake up in the morning and say, this is what I'm going to shoot. It happens. You see the possibilities of reflections, and you look at that material and the scenes just happen and you capture them. And it's totally out of this world. It's you can relate to the cityscape, but something is wrong. But that sort of what is wrong is really interesting, and that's what reflections are doing. Yeah, beautiful image of light in Venice. I think was that Venice?
Yep, Venetian door, I think it was called.
Yeah. So the beautiful capture, great depth of field. Love how there's a little silhouette of a person as well. It's beautiful how the light floods into like the building through the door. But there's a beautiful image. But when we look at it now, look at all the black around it, and the image is actually a portrait style. It's not a square, it's not a landscape. And I think like this presentation shows as well, and that's how I saw the image as well, that all the vast amount of black around it makes the light even more come to the forefront. So I would have cropped the image actually like this rather than just the
portrait
middle
version.
third of what we can see now on our screen, and that would highlight the light even more. And that sort of negative black space, all of a sudden that was gone when I looked just at the image as itself without the black presentation screen behind it. So I would have loved it way more when there was more black around it, because that accentuates the light even more. I think it looks like it was taken through the window of a car. Is this infrared? So there's a few things happening that make this a really interesting photo, not just of a road with trees, but something is happening, and that makes it interesting. It looks like an IR image. Am I correct, or?
No, you are correct. It's through a window, but it's not an IR image. But it's taken at a very high ISO.
Okay, yeah. It's a very unusual shot, and that makes it really interesting for me, because it's not just your average rows of trees, and because of the shooting through the window, and because it's wet, it adds the extra layer of interesting to it.
Where is it, Mike?
It's in the southern part of Sicily.
Okay.
Very wet day, and it was hard to get out of the bus, but I thought that wasn't going to deter me. So I took this shot, but it's at 20,000 ISO.
Thousands. I think I'll throw my iPhone in the lake.
Do I gather from that it was a film shot?
No.
It was digital. Yeah.
Digital, just conventional on my Canon, but it it intrigued me, and it had a little bit of playing with, but not a lot.
Yeah, very good.
I wish I could read this. I'm not sure what this image is about, so it's hard to comment other than its beautiful calligraphy. Is it Japanese or Chinese or some other language? I would have loved to see this in a square crop as well, to elevate it to a more like sort of abstract sort of image to look at. The title didn't give much away either, other than its beautiful calligraphy, and I like how the calligraphy is nice and black, so it stands out to the background. So yeah, I would love to know what it says to understand. Great abstract architectural shot. There's great whites, and there's really dark blacks, and there's not a lot of grays, and it's really well done in post-processing, I think. I looked at this as a square crop as well, but I think any crop will do because of all the lines and the shapes, and I like how the white areas become as much part of the sculpture as the actual sculpture. So yeah, very well shot, and the crop is really nice. This again, I was struggling with the filter or the noise. From memory, the image had to do with fog, but I can't see the fog, and all I can see is the pattern. So maybe the maker can explain to make me understand why that was their decision to do it like this.
That's another iPhone taken from the zoo area.
Yeah.
Athol Beach. So that's when you just crop it in that far. It's amazing the noise you see on the sensor.
That's right. Get that Sony out, I think.
Does that noise?
But the building at the top's pretty clear.
Yeah, popping out of the fog.
It was about the fog.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the the noise over the Opera House is atmospherically based, not device based.
You're probably right. Yeah.
That's all the approximations that the sensor's got to make for the subtleties in the gradation in the fog.
Yeah. How it plays.
It's almost got like a painterly sort of aspect to it as well.
Yep.
I found it hard to look past the noise. Okay, this one is very sharp.
I've jumped too.
Yeah.
We just got to go back. There we go.
The eye. It's like a cat's eye.
What I found interesting in this image is not the car or the person walking there, but it looks like there's a face in the top right-hand corner looking at you.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very spooky. And at first I didn't really see it, but then I was looking at the clouds and I was like, oh, there's a face. You can see a nose and two eyes, and it looks somebody is looking at the person walking there outside their car. So that made the photo interesting in an otherwise not very interesting scene, because it's just the car and the person walking, but that sort of face in the clouds made it really interesting and a bit spooky, and I love that about this photo.
Yeah. What are you doing on my mountain? Yeah.
He looks as if he's on the edge of going over into
the abyss.
The abyss, yeah. So that's the thing that I found quite spooky about it.
Yeah. It'd actually, if the car wasn't there, I think it would really help, because it's just the person and the shape of the cloud that you've got to negotiate, rather than the three things.
Yeah. Great.
Another very familiar scene. I've walked this track a million times, and I love how there's beautiful depth of field in this shot because of the leading line, like from the bottom right into the image towards the person. It's great that the photographer waited to have a person included as well for sense of scale. Great pattern, all the shapes of the trees compared to the straight lines in the fence. I wish I was there on that walk. The weather is going to be very beautiful on the weekend, but it's more than 5 kilometers for me, so I can't go there. But yeah, it's one of my favorite places for a walk, all the way to like from the zoo to Middlehead. So yeah, a great made for great memories, and it made me like, oh, I want to get out again, but yeah, I can't because we're in lockdown. But yeah, beautiful image of this place that I love so much.
Interesting. The mouse is locked up now. Let's try the. Oh, here we go.
Another reflection, and a very intriguing one indeed. There's not a lot of reflection happening, but the eyes make this image, and they look at you and you wonder who the person is and what it's all part of. Is it a shop window, or is it a poster? Or yeah, I really like this image, and it's totally intriguing, and I can see the silhouette as well. And is it a platform? Like, and there's all these things that I'd like to know, and I'm guessing, and it makes it a really interesting image. This is Norway, the Opera House, Norway. Just before the lockdown, I wanted to go back to Norway, and this was on my list to visit. Great building, great lines. It's really interesting for black and white photography, architecture. I was struggling with the composition here with the diagonal lines. I've got in one of my prepared sort of visuals, I've got a square crop of this particular side. I find the lines, the diagonal lines bother me. They're not anchored in the composition in a way that is pleasing to my eye. It's a great building. I love all the lines and the reflections, and there's little people walking there as well for a sense of scale, but there's something unsettling in the composition, in the lines, that for me are not anchored. The building is not anchored in the composition. Again, it's all very subjective, but that was my feeling.
Yep. I think that little bit of water down in the bottom makes it float, which doesn't help the anchoring.
Yeah, it's somebody else might say like, oh, it's awesome, but to me, I came back to this image like 10 times. I'm like, should I give it a merit or not? And I was like, okay, I give it a merit. And then I was like, should I? And it bothered me. So yeah, something's not right, but it's a beautiful image, but the composition is, yeah, it's unsettling to me because of diagonal lines.
It could have been their intent to unsettle your decks.
Because I'm jealous that that person was actually there and I didn't go. And I want to go. This is one of those decisive moments. I love the movement in the image. It's beautiful. There's beautiful contrast. And I love how I think it's a citizenship or some kind of diploma that has been presented, and it's taken at the right moment where the person is grabbing the sheet of paper, and very sort of poetic image as well, almost. And I love the movement in there as well. So yeah, beautiful capture. The power of repetition. This is another image where I think negative space can add to the composition. Imagine that what you're looking at, the left-hand side of your screen is completely white, and it would have been a square crop, and it will highlight the repetition and the beautiful lines even more, rather than it being a portrait. I would have loved to see this with a lot of white space on the left-hand side in the square crop, to show the lines more effectively against the white. I prepared a visual to make my point as well. So, but beautifully captured and beautifully seen. You often don't look up. The best views are often when you look up in the city or wherever you are. So this was beautifully spotted. This is another image where the lines were bothering me. Maybe because I'm a graphic designer, maybe I am a pedantic graphic designer or have pedantic views, but I have another version of the shot where it's cropped to a square. And again, I think the lines, the subject is better anchored in the composition. Other than that, there's lots of lines and shapes, and especially I love the person in the frame as well, to add a sense of scale, because otherwise it could have been something that you couldn't see what it was. So it's very important to have that person there in the right spot, and also some reflections there as well to make it an even more interesting shot. But I wonder if the portrait shape was the best possible composition here. I love this one, the sails and the sails. Yeah, what can I say? It's another one of those creative shots of the Opera House, because you put the actual sails in front of the sails of the Opera House. So you can even see a little bit of the harbour bridge in the background as well, if I'm correct. Not sure if that's the harbour bridge, but yeah, I love the love the juxtaposition. Love the person on the boat as well, because there's so much to see. There's in the foreground and in the background, and love this image.
It's actually a cruise ship. No, I'm afraid it's not the harbour bridge, but it's just a straight out of camera from Bradley's head with a 500mm lens. And that black bit, I'm afraid it's not the Harbour Bridge, but it'd be nice if it was.
The city, oh, when can I go back? There's so much happening in this photo, and that makes it so interesting. Every corner of the photo, there's lines and lights and shapes, and again, there's a little person there as well. A great crop, lots of interesting things to look at. Perfect street photography to me. Loved it. I wasn't really sure what it was. I thought it was somebody on a bike, but yeah, is it somebody on a bike or is it somebody on a horse? And what are all these other people in the back doing? So very intriguing shots, and I would love to know from the maker how they created it, because it's pretty awesome.
I think it was called The Race, wasn't it?
Yes, this was at the Chinese New Year procession, and they were bike riders on, the bike was made to look like a horse, horses, with neon lights. So it was, it's quite an amazing photo in colour, actually, because the neon lights are very bright. So I thought I'd try it in black and white.
Yeah.
But it is unusual.
Yeah, and I often have a problem with sort of in-camera movement, because every now and then I think, like, why did you move the camera? But this is actually stuff moving, and you captured it rather than shaking your camera or just have in-camera movement for the sake of it. So this is perfect movement, captured in a beautiful way, and it's all very, you know, you don't really know what it is, but you can see a bike and a horse and there's people. What is it? Yeah, really, really interesting shot.
Oh, thanks, Dex. I've been sitting on that image for years, not brave enough to show it. So thank you for that.
It's from your impressionist phase, Louise.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, photography is all about capturing light, and this is another one of those images where it's all about light. Without the light, the beautiful silhouette of the tree wouldn't be there, and that line, that's probably because of a plane, wouldn't be there either. So yeah, beautiful image, capturing beautiful light. It's probably somewhere in Australia.
Near Narrabri.
Narrabri, yeah, it's beautiful Australian landscape, big skies, big trees.
All right, so that was the last of the 38. Shall we go through the awards, and then you can do the creative recropping, or would you like to do that before we have a look at the awards?
No, have a look at the awards first.
Okay, all right. All right, so the credits. Number one, a close look from Maribi. Is Maribi with us? I think I saw her come in.
Well done, Maribi.
It was the afternoon that we went to the city with Philip and Timothy.
What's the hair in the reflections is like wood grain. It's really quite interesting.
And the coloring on the girl's face is really nice as well, because that adds another sort of intriguing part to it.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, the girl was with a painting in the face, so it looks like a flower in the.
Yeah. And then I see that you can see through the holes in the sculpture as well, and you can see the other side of the sculpture.
That's it. Yeah, that was a fun afternoon. We've got Exit by Graham. I presume that's Vera in the background, Graham.
No. Yeah, it is Vera, and she's looking at her iPhone as well, I think.
That's right. Two of you are wandering around with your iPhones trying to get shots inside Torrell's light installation.
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful.
Where's this building?
Canberra National Gallery
Oh, Canberra.
outside.
Right next to the National Gallery, they've got it's an installation by the same guy who did the sky roof in Mona down in Tassie. And the little thing on the left, the beehive thing on the left, you can walk inside, and it's got another hole in the roof. So it's quite an interesting little installation. Worth a visit.
Yeah, I love
Lovely
Canberra.
colours too.
Then we have kimono of what's it? Asakusa?
Asakusa.
Asakasa. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you, Dex.
Arigato.
Arigato. Gozaimasu.
Well done.
I can relate to this image because I've been to Japan, so I was like, oh, I want to go back.
Yeah, I felt
yeah,
the same
very-
way.
Very creative way of showing your images,
Yep.
and
Doing
that
the
adds an extra
kimono.
layer
Yep.
to your photography.
Yep. Nice job.
Thanks.
Look out by Pamela. This looks like Melbourne, Pamela.
Yeah, that was taken in Melbourne. Yeah, I went down to visit my granddaughter. Yeah.
Granddaughter. She needs to enter the kids category.
Yeah, no, this is actually my daughter in the photo. Yeah, but she's just about to bump into this wall.
Walk into the door.
It's good.
And you just let her do it so you could get the photo, did you?
Yeah.
Did you take the image from inside the building?
No, outside.
Outside.
Yeah.
It's hard to sort of figure out what's happening with these reflections, and that's why they're so interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Dex.
You're welcome.
We got Luminance by Arnold. Is Arnold with us?
The photography is all about lights.
Yep, he's here.
I'm here.
It's all about capturing light, and I'm not sure what it is, but it's very intriguing.
Yeah. It's the afternoon light reflecting off a vertical sheet of machine polished stainless steel.
Is it one sheet?
Yeah, it's just one
Really?
sheet. And
It's
just,
actually creating the pattern in the surface of the stainless, isn't it?
yeah, so, well, you know, without the angle of the sun, you wouldn't have got the difference in luminescence based, you know, depending on, I guess, whether the machine was going up or down or whatever it was doing. But if you just look at it in the daytime, it's just like glossy stainless steel.
Cool. We'll look with interest when Dex crops it into a square in a minute.
I can see it already.
And then we've got Grant's Newtown Sunshower. And Reflections by Terry.
There's not really a lot of reflection. There's just a lot of beautiful light.
Yeah, mainly on the side of the that covered way on the escalator. You've got all that building reflection on that glass there. I think that's probably the subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lucky shot. I nearly missed it because I was looking the other way.
Is that the thing where your wife tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Look at that, Terry"?
No, it was a solo round around the city at that stage.
And the award by Pamela, doubling up there, Pamela.
Oh, thank you, Dex. This was, they were giving out the Principals Award, and this is my granddaughter's boyfriend getting his.
Oh, right. He might be old enough to get in the kids category as well there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing their HSC. They've got their trials on at the moment.
That's right. Good bit of relaxation during the pressure. And then this one's from me at the local optometrist down the road at Neutral Bay. So that's as far as I was prepared to go, all masked up. And this this girl is behind a sheet of glass, and it's right near the bus stop. So you do actually look out and see a bit of the bus stop with the pizza shop across the road. So yeah.
Cool shot, Tim.
Yeah, she had rather engaging eyes. So, yeah.
She looks Balinese.
And the land of the coca leaves, I think she's been chewing on some.
Probably was at the time.
Did you, when you were creating this image?
No. No, not at all. No, but you actually said as part of your brief, I want to see something I haven't seen before. And I figured, well, you wouldn't have seen my imagination. So,
so tell us about the, what are they, daisies that you've used for a head and an eye? Any significance there?
So often when I'm doing like a composite like this, I try and use shots from the same place, same sort of location. So they're all from Bolivia. So the slippers actually, when I was about 20, I had these great blue elephant slippers. They were really disgusting, but I thought of them at the time. So I put them on the bird, and the legs are a garage door from a shot, from the same shot that the Bolivian lady is from.
Okay, so they've got the painted stripes on them.
Yeah, and then the daisies, the like daisies were in the like in the foreground. Yeah. So I decided with the lady looking at the flamingo with all the different heads, then and I actually put the daisy there to, because I couldn't see well, to actually help with the blending. Okay. So that's the significance of it there. And then I decided that, well, they're kind of looking at something really weird, so why can't the flamingo be looking at something weird? So yeah, it was just purely by imagination.
So is there any particular symbolism in the animal or the daisy in that culture, or is that pure?
No. It's it's the flamingo, and the flowers were taken in Bolivia, so it was just purely all Bolivian. It's the salt flats in Bolivia.
How difficult was it for you to get rid of all that beautiful color of that culture? And decide to, okay, I'll do a black and white, because the colors in that culture are amazing.
Yes, but I was following the brief, and it was I don't do black and white images usually, other than for camera clubs. So it was okay. I actually think it looks quite effective without the color anyway.
Got rid of all that colorful distraction.
Yeah, exactly.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thanks, Dex.
And then we have The Race by Louise. Has Louise got back in? She keeps...
yeah, sorry, I'm coming in and out. It's quite an eventful evening for me at this end.
It is. I think you've been in about 6 times. So it's the internet connection again, is it? Oh, she's gone. She's out again.
No, I'm in again.
No, you're back again. Okay.
I'm getting snapshots of this entire session. I'm looking forward to seeing it in sequence, actually.
We're recording it for you.
Thank you.
Venetian Door by Robin.
Oh, I'm here.
You're still here? On? Yep.
Yeah, I'm on. Yep. Yeah, it's interesting, Dex, what you said about the black, because I didn't consider it going on to it being presented on a black screen at all, and changing that whole dynamic.
Yeah, you can see what impact that black has on the beautiful light.
This is in a church in Giudecca on the other side of the canal, and it is as dramatic as this because when you're coming towards the door, the inside of the church is almost black, and you can hardly see the detail. So it's very representative of the sort of experience of coming from inside a very dark space out into the bright light.
Yeah. After my comment, you'll have to travel back to take this shot again.
That's right. Yeah, just because you told us to, we'll have to go back, Dex. And then Ian's White on White. Great overlay of the sails on the sails.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're into the merits. The first merit is Boats in the Fog by Maribi.
Well done, Maribi.
Yeah, well done, Maribi.
Yeah, beautiful image.
Very nice.
Is she still with us?
Can you tell us a little bit more how you created this image?
Yeah, it's two images really. One is panning horizontal, that is the boats and the water, and one is panning vertical, that is the mass of the boats.
Okay, so you've got a
And
horizontal pan and a vertical pan. Yep.
Yeah, I'm blending together. I shot this in one of the last foggy mornings in this winter in the Speed Bridge. And I think we are actually in lockdown by this time. I escaped in the morning. And I convert in black and white and not too much, really.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was a beautiful image.
Yeah. Bon Voyage by Grant.
Thank you.
So Dex is going to make you an offer for this that the shot he couldn't take. So now's your time to negotiate the price.
Yeah. Apologies, Dex. I have to admit it's the only time I've ever been there.
I've been there a million times.
Maybe that's why I never went back. But it's an image I had for years, and I had this image for years in colour and beautiful blues and the golden light, and with COVID being what it is, and monochrome seems to have become my thing. So I've been going back through my catalogue, looking at old photos, and this one just worked.
Yeah. I agree. Well done, Grant.
And we got Chippy Chase #2 by Robin.
Well done, Robin.
Yeah, thank you.
Great job.
Yeah, great shot, Robin.
I guess it was Robin.
Did you?
You like the seagulls?
Yeah. So I had a trusty helper. I was lying on my belly on a floating jetty, and I had the I can't remember if I had the underwater housing or whether I just had the straight out camera, because I was using both of them at the time. And then my trusty helper was flinging up chips up in the air. So I was able to shoot right at water height and just watch the mayhem, because he'd fling up a handful of chips and they would all just go nuts at once. So it was.
So does this mean you're disqualifying yourself because you weren't the author of the images?
I am the author of the images.
He's not the author of the throwing chips.
Yeah.
and these are the seagulls that didn't turn up in Terrigal, aren't they?
That's right. This is where they all were. They were
obviously.
All down at Eden on the south coast. Yeah.
So Robin, did you have this in mind when you woke up that particular morning and was like, oh, I'm going to take some photos and this is what I'm going to try? Or did it just happen?
I already had I'd already had a little theme of throwing the chips up in the air and just, photographing the mayhem as it happens. But when I saw that the jetty was right at water level, and the fish and there was actually a stingray underneath as well. So they were all hanging around because they were local fishermen. So I just thought, to get that, change the perspective, I just get right down to the water. It was easy to get right down at water level, to get a slightly different perspective of what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it wasn't when I woke up in the morning. It was like progressed as the day, as the scene revealed itself and what I could do with it.
There's even a more dramatic backstory, Dex, because we were on the way back from Tassie just when COVID started, and we were coming up the coast, and this was one of our camping stops on the way back to Sydney from the first part of COVID. So
yeah, and the towns were ravaged by fire, so I was desperate to stop and
buy
some chips. I was desperate to stop and buy some chips or anything in town so that we could just support the town somehow, because everything was shut down. So that's how the seagulls got the chips.
Yeah. Lovely clouds.
And then we've got line S from Rosie.
Well done, Rosie.
Rosie, still with us?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, that's in at the Crown Casino.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when it just opened, I went in there and yeah, good spot. That was just taken with my iPhone, actually.
Oh, another iPhone shot.
Yeah, that's all I had. So that's all I, yeah.
Sometimes that's all you need.
That's all you need. That's right. It's got that sort of 60s feel to it, doesn't it? Because even the guys.
It's actually all these lines are bright blue lights.
Okay. Yeah.
So
LED lights.
In color, it looks really psychedelic.
Yeah. But the guy in his suit, he looks like he's got a 60s suit with a thin tie and he's holding his hat and all that sort of stuff. So it's got a nice little retro feel to it.
Yeah, it looks better in black and white.
Yeah, beautiful shot.
Thank
Well
you.
done, Rosie.
Thank you.
So we're up to the judge's choice. So drum roll. Who do we think it No one's going to guess.
Yeah.
Well done, Robin. Well done.
Well done. Extraordinary image.
Thank you very much. Thank
Well
you.
done, Robin.
Like it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have picked you for choosing it because it was it's not very you, Dex.
It's a moment that I've never witnessed myself. I've never seen anything like this, and I'd like to be surprised when I do my judging. I always say, like the Wanaka tree, I've seen it a million times. You have to really be impressive to make that a winner. This is so out of the ordinary and different, and something none of us have ever seen before, which makes it really interesting and beautiful and amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
We'll all be carrying chips around from now on.
Well, Roger, what Suzanne alluded to was that I ran a workshop Tim and I ran a workshop back in January, and first part of the workshop was to buy chips and go out and feed the seagulls to teach people how to shoot them. And of course, on a morning when there's always 500 million seagulls at a beach, there was not one single seagull at the beach for 10 paying clients.
I still reckon it was to do with the fact that they don't usually eat cheap chips that early in the morning.
No, that's right. The night before's chips.
They were well trained by the coffee culture as to when the people.
The shutter speed must have been pretty quick and the focus.
So if I enable screen sharing, Dex, then you can take us through a couple of those ideas that you had on just improving cropping and making the images a bit stronger.
Well, I actually talked through everything already, but I just prepared just a couple to make my point.
Yeah.
Can I share my screen?
You should be able to. I've enabled that now.
How do you do that?
How do you enable it? Down where it says security, Alan. So if you click on the security button, one of the options there is enable screen sharing.
Yeah, this is one. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
We already saw it by like how the presentation went. So with a lot of black around the light makes it way more effective than just the portrait image that it was. And I've made sure that there was a line through the middle.
Yep.
And the light is coming in from an angle, and there's more black space around it.
Yep.
To highlight the beautiful light flooding in.
It gives the black gives something for the light to push back against.
And you can see that it actually is cut off here because that's the image.
Yep.
But it doesn't really matter because it can be a chair or a piece of furniture, and that is here, but it's just all black. But you can see how more effective the light works in this composition with these lines.
Much stronger. Yep.
Okay.
It's just my opinion. It's just I think it would have been more effective, but you might disagree. But yeah, this is, I think, I find it really hard to explain what a square crop does to an image. Not a lot of people choose a square crop because I'm not sure it's because people are struggling with a square crop, or it's easier for me because I'm struggling with a portrait or landscape, but it just elevates anything to another level of sort of arty-fartiness, I often call it.
Very technical.
I don't want to be too highbrow or anything, but it just elevates the content in the square crop to something more fine art, and that's just how I feel. I can't help myself. But
what do you think, Arnold?
Agree or not? Or
we'll get the artist's impression here.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see it right away, Dex. It's I just you know, I thought it might lose rhythm if, but it hasn't. In fact, it's just accentuated it, I think.
I think it accentuates the abstract quality of the pattern, where you can actually start making it out a bit more in the wider crop, but this sort of concentrates your eye on the pattern.
Yes. And I think all the tonal range that you sort of are looking for and the interest is nice and compact here. I like it. Thanks.
Yeah, it just elevates it to another level. And I find it hard to explain, but it has a distinctive difference whether you crop something portrait or landscape, because that's so familiar to us, how we look at images compared to square, because we don't see in squares. We see portraits and we see landscapes.
Well, it's the easy thing to do is you just take the format that the camera gives you and you don't question it. So immediately you've gone from the what you see through the viewfinder to then turning it into something else just purely by the cropping.
That's another one.
Okay.
Well, I left out the left-hand side and the right-hand side. But that comment you made, Tim, about the cinematic quality of the other crop is a fair call, because that has now sort of disappeared.
That's right. It does. It concentrates your eye on the person and the particles in the sky, but you don't get that cinematic feel, do you?
Yeah, but that's not how I look at imagery, as in cinematic. So that's just a different point of view of composing your image.
We had Peter de Vries along one night, and if it wasn't 16 by 9, he wasn't interested. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, actually, I've been playing with it. So after Dex said something, I've been sitting here and sort of had a fairly similar crop, and yeah, I like it. But I also like what you said about the cinematic feel as well, because I sort of there's a deliberate blur there.
That's right. It's got that sort of film
edges,
noir feel to it with the width.
Yeah,
because you've got the mystery of the dark and gloomy sides, and then there's this character sort of walking past all the dark black furniture. So it's got a nice sort of angst to it in the black and white. So in the white.
But I like this too.
We've got versions 1 and 2. They both say, well, they do different things, don't they? That's what's interesting, is that one's not better than the other. It's just that they do different things.
You work with different concepts, whether it's cinematic or not, and that can be. You always have to think about like why you crop an image, portrait or landscape or square. How you present your images. That was what we saw with the kimono. That's a very unique way of presenting your work, which gives it an extra meaning. And if you want that cinematic look, then this crop won't be good enough. But if you want, it all depends what your idea is. So think about why it's a horizontal, or why it's a vertical crop, or why it's a square crop. Which crop will make your image a better image, and why?
Yeah. The other thing on presentation, which is quite good here, Dex, is that if the crop is important to you, then putting the border around the image, so no matter what it's projected on, the border then tells someone how to read the image, is important. So actually putting a border on an image helps in the reading of it sometimes, because bleeding into the into whatever it's presented on doesn't necessarily help the image. So you've got to think about not only how you crop to improve the presentation, but also whether you need the border to accommodate the various circumstances that the image might be seen under.
Give it breathing room.
Yeah, give it breathing room just to separate it from whatever background it's on. Because they're quite generous borders you're giving them.
Yeah, I just feel like that's enough. I don't have any mathematical special measurements or so to that feels good.
You don't do a percentage thing, it's just a what looks right. Yeah. So what have you done to Suzanne's?
Well, this was a very
What shit? Yeah, I'd be scared.
This is what I meant by, see, this is now the one image.
Yeah.
So it isolates the tree and the people, and cool. More trees and the house. Maybe this is part of that house and this is the door. So there's a little bit more of a story, and you don't have to put one image in here, one image in here, one image in here, one image in here, and here's. So there's a bit more to play with that configuration, and I think that could make it more interesting or not, or maybe you want that symbolism in flipping because that's a Japanese tradition. But I thought, like, as an extra layer of interestingness, that might be something.
Yeah, that's a cool concept to work with. Yeah, because this is my second sort of kimono displayed type images. Tim's seen the other ones, and so yeah, that gives me a third option. So thank you. That's good food for thought.
Because you really have to think about why these people are in this square and how they relate to that building or to the trees or that door. So tell a bit of a story rather than just having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
See, this is that same image that I was struggling with, and it was just because of the noise. But by making it a square crop and adding this negative space, there's so much more emphasis on the two silhouettes and the background.
Yeah, it makes them like the icing on the cake, doesn't it?
Yep, and you just make this black, and you put a little bit of a gradient, and they sit on the big wall, and there's more depth of field. And I've also felt a little bit claustrophobic in that crop. So maybe think about the grain, and maybe that's just a quality thing that you can't really zoom in with an iPhone because you get bad quality, or make sure that this sort of pattern works with the overall image. When I look at it now and I can't really see all the noise, it's not it's not really all that.
The other thing you can do in the processing is actually add noise. So if it's not even, you can actually tidy it up with noise. So you can add it and brush in noise to fix up bits which aren't reading well. So that's just a little processing trick I can show you, Graham.
Sounds good.
Cool ink block.
So I was looking at a square crop here, looking at where the white spaces would sit, where they would sit in the frame. But after a million ways of putting it in a square crop, it really doesn't matter because all the lines, however you crop the photo, they are as good as any because the subject is so interesting. And the white elements, they become even like part of the sculpture rather than just
whose was this one?
Background.
Whose was this one?
This is mine, Tim.
Okay, is this the wide brown land font down in Canberra?
No, this is up at George's Heights. It's
okay. Yep. Yep, up there, the little
4 statues there from
yep. Mhm.
Thingamajig by the Sea.
Yep. Yep. Sculptures by the sea.
Sculptures by the sea.
Thingamajigs.
Those thingamajigs that adorn the
People-
cliff tops between.
that you used to be able to look at once.
Yeah. No, it's a great graphic, isn't it? It's got that sort of what's it? Charles Coburn black and white, or he used to do the color, but it's got the same sort of feel as a Coburn.
When I look at it now, I'm not really sure whether a white border is actually the best choice, because this sort of bleeds into the border. So
Can't you quickly reverse the border to black there for us, Dex?
Sorry?
Can't you quickly change the border to black for us?
No, I'll have to do that in another program.
That's all right. All right. Keep going. It's great.
See, this is where I was struggling with the lines, and I think the image is better anchored in the composition. It's more balanced. There's that's
it gives a base to it. Is this yours, Rosie?
No. I wish it was. I like it.
It's Oslo.
Yeah.
And I really was more looking at the leading lines. I've been thinking of that because you like square. I follow you.
Very cool.
Oh. But
this is where, Elspeth, this is where you can swear at him in Danish. We won't know.
Hij kan bijna geen Nederlands meer spreken. Hè? Ja hoor.
Ja, zouden we kunnen doen, maar better in English.
Better in English. But I thought about it, and I've been playing with it, but I thought, no, I'm going for the leading lines.
Yeah.
And I thought that when I crop it like a square, then I'm losing all those leading lines that I liked.
So you like more of the long extended look, as opposed to this plays with the pattern quite nicely, but you don't get that sense of elongation which you do in the long broad.
I can't see the building like this, because I liked the building with all those lines diagonal, and I thought when I crop it too much I will lose that.
Yeah.
There you go, Dex. We got 2 votes for cinematographic approach to photography.
Next.
Might lose some followers now.
It's nice.
Like it's all subjective. We all have different eyes.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's how you feel when you have seen it in real life. You've been to Oslo?
No, I was on my way, but COVID cancelled.
Okay, well, when you go back to that spot, you will see, and we talk about it later.
Yeah. So what's quite interesting about this exchange is that it's good for your own image making to actually try different crops and then see the different effects, and then consciously make the decision as to why you've chosen the crop, because that'll also help in you in understanding what you are trying to emphasize in your image. All right. So if this image hadn't been squared up like what Dex has done, then you wouldn't have got to the point where you said, well, what I want is actually the extended leading sweep of the line. And then that will then inform you, when you then start looking at the other crop, what you can do to emphasize the sweeping nature of what you're trying to capture. So it's good to try different things, because then you then make much more conscious decisions in when you're putting the images together. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a matter of how you want to expose that image as well. You're feeling about it.
Yeah. There you go. I've saved you, Dex.
Well, I'm straightforward. I'm Dutch, so I'm straightforward as well.
No offense taken, because you've explained yourself, and that's
right. What were you thinking, Dex?
Tim, do you have a whistle? I think you might need one. Time to blow the whistle.
This is another image where I added some negative space here.
Yeah.
Which, because this was cropped here, and it needed air, it needed to breathe. So I think this is an example of how these elements pop out more, and they need more space and white around them.
Yep, no, it's very effective.
Less is more.
So don't be afraid of a lot of black and a lot of white, because just that might accentuate your subject a bit more.
They've got that sort of Lunig hair twirl thing going, haven't they? Little motif.
Oh, yeah.
Where is this? Whose shot was that? Anyone owning up? No. Okay.
Could be France or Italy.
Okay.
Or Hobart, who knows?
Italy or Hobart.
Yeah. See, this is where I was struggling whether I should crop it. Is it a better crop or the horizontal one? And I think the landscape one is just as good because of all the lines going through the edges of the photo.
I think the square crop makes it look a bit more propellery, where the wider one, you're then following the lines all the way to the corners and you get more of a sense of the movement of the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the white
in my presentation, I said, like, I don't know, probably, but I tried and I was like, oh, is this making a point or not? This probably is not the best solution.
Yeah.
I think the white border helps a lot. So even if it was done in the original format with a white border, it would have helped.
Yep.
It isolates the photograph, your image, so it's not bleeding into your screen. Or see, that was happening with the light that was flooding through the door. That was too much to distract you from the actual image. And at first I didn't even know that the black that I saw was part of the presentation format and not the image. So by putting some kind of frame around it, it isolates the image a little bit. I'm a big fan, but yeah, it's just how you want to present your photos. This is
right out of the corner. Look at that.
It just, for me, again, it's personal, but I'm way more relaxed looking at this image because it's beautifully anchored here. There's the rule of thirds. It sits beautifully in the square frame, where the other one was a bit unsettling. And again, that's very personal. There's nothing wrong with your portrait version, but this calms me down because as a graphic designer, I see shapes and composition always comes sort of natural to me. So I have and I feel composition. So I felt a bit uncomfortable. But there was nothing wrong with the image because it had beautiful architecture and shapes and patterns and texture and the human element. But it was just that unsettling thing, but still a great photo. I hope I'd sort of made clear why I made certain comments, and hopefully nobody's angry with me or
not at all. The whole purpose is to try to improve our image making. So you know, all sorts of ideas are taken on, and it's a great way of testing your own ideas and looking at what other people's are. And yeah, you got to just put the ego aside and wade on in and enjoy the contest.
Yeah, you're probably lucky you can't go out for long walks, Dex, at the moment. In case people will be following you if you came over our area.
That's right. Dark lane. Don't go down any dark laneways for a while.
Yeah, that's right. Don't do that Middle Harbour walk.
I'll have to go incognito, dress up like with a long blonde wig, so nobody from the Mossman Camera Club will
chase you. That's right. I think that's been really helpful. Those because then, as you say, it's much easier to show graphically rather than in generalization. So it was good to see those little crops, and I think there was pros and cons of all of them. So it was great exercise.
Yeah, I think you've gone to a great effort that and I don't think any other judge has done that, have they?
Yeah.
It's great to show it in a visual way.
What do you think, Mr. Ramsden? How did he go?
Sorry?
I think you're muted them.
Yeah, I think it works really well having that follow-up later.
Yeah.
And also, English is not my first language, so sometimes a word I choose could be sort of interpreted as too harsh or not right, because you can say a lot of things with words, and sometimes I don't have the vocabulary to express exactly what I want to say. So visually, I can sort of add to what I want to say to you guys.
Yeah, but to be fair,
all about that.
Yeah, to be fair, your language is graphic design, so you've chosen the right language to communicate in.
Agree with that.
All right. I think the only thing that that I need to do now is thank Dex for all that effort. So it was great. Just putting in that extra little bit to be a little bit offer a bit more of a critique. So yeah, that was a great little bonus. So thanks very much for going to the effort for doing that.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks so very much, Dex.
It was a pleasure. I had a lot of fun. I had a very big day in the office at home as well.
Yeah.
And I could actually relax at 7:30 and talk about photography. That's great.
So for those who don't know, Dex is actually judging the monochrome category of the Mossman Photography Awards. So we've had the so if you'd like to have a bit more of a practice and submit something in the monochrome section.
Square.
Yeah, the other thing that's available in the competition is if you want a written appraisal of your image, you can ask for that. That's an added little bonus. So if you want to actually practice on your monochrome, then Dex is still available through that process. So there you go. Drumming up some business for you, Dex.
Yeah. I've learned a few things myself as well. The word cinematography, that struck a chord with me. That could be something I could be looking in as well, because that's a really interesting term. So my head is going gangbusters at the moment. How can I sort of do something with that?
Yeah, well, we've got you from the square format to the 16:9. Now all we need is the storytelling within the 16:9 format, and then you're a cinematographer.
In my dreams. Yeah, there's always something new to explore, and it's meetings like this when you are amongst other people that love photography, and it's not a competition. And of course, we have merits and credits, but we all learn from each other and are inspired by each other, and that's just great. I'm inspired again. I think I'm going for a walk tomorrow at 7. See what I can find.
Fantastic.
In my 5-kilometer radius.
Yeah. All right. Well, our next get together is those in the portfolio group next Thursday, and then we've got the 1st of September 3-way competition for interconnected, and we'll see how the other 2 clubs have interpreted interconnected. So,
what the hell do you mean by it?
well, if you wanted to take the pandemic route, Alan, you could say that everyone who has now caught COVID was interconnected. So
all of us staying at home interconnected too.
That's right. So anyway, my son-in-law said to me this morning, he said 600 and whatever cases, you know what that equates to in a week per day. So there's what have we got? 5,000 people a week who are coming down with it. So
oh gosh,
that's it certainly sounds a little different when you do it on the weekly format.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, vaccination is the way. So I hope you've all had your chance. All right. So thanks again, Dex.
Thank
We'll
you.
See you all soon.
Thank you, Dex.
Everyone.
Thanks so much,
Stay
Dex.
safe, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Stay well, stay safe.
Stay safe. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.